Hi, everybody. This is Vladimirakuna, and I have a beautiful Peggy McColl here today, and we're talking about her absolutely fantastic book, Savy Wisdom. Hi, Peggy.
Hello, Vladdy. Thank you for having me. This is so much fun.
Thank you for coming. We all love Savy Wisdom. You know, I have so many people who wants to hear from you directly because they listening to me all the time.
Oh, that
And
is
I
so
love
great.
Savy Wisdom.
Me too. I'm in love with Savvy Wisdom as well.
It is fantastic book. It is. I've read it 3 times. Most of my friends know, and I just actually I would probably read it 4th time, but I've forced my sister to read it. She's not into a success or personal studies. She loves all those romance fairy tales, but I said to her, no,
Right.
no, you gotta do this.
Well, that's what's fascinating about it is it's like there's romance in it
Mm,
and it could sound like a fairy tale to some
yeah.
degree. And I think that's why so many people are enjoying it that may or may not be into personal development because it's a story. It's written like a
Yes.
fiction book.
Yeah, that's true. I love that. So, what motivated you to write it? It's your 19th book.
19th book, yes. So what happened was Celine, who you know, who works with my team, she had created a list of videos for me to record because I'm shooting videos all the time for social media and different reasons. And so I just look at some suggestions. I actually have a list of new suggestions that she sent me this morning that I printed out. So, and they'll make suggestions. I don't always record the videos based on the recommendations, but I love their suggestions. And so it was October, I think around the 30th, 31st. I'm looking at the list, and the next item on the list is how I wrote my first fiction book. And I think what she was suggesting is, do an audio for other authors who want to write fiction, because I teach fiction
Yeah.
inside my complete author program and how to write nonfiction. So I teach how to write fiction, how to write nonfiction. And I've worked with many authors, fiction and nonfiction, but my 18 books were all nonfiction. So I look at the list and I'm thinking, maybe it's time. And this is how ideas get formed, right? Like it's just, now what most people do is just dismiss this idea. And so also what happens is as soon as you entertain an idea, your paradigm starts showing up going, who do you think you are? And, like that kind of thing, or you can't do that. And so certainly as soon as I entertained the idea, my paradigm showed up to say, oh, you're not even any good at writing and you've never written a fiction book and maybe you should hire a ghostwriter. And I just started thinking about that. And I thought, I don't want to hire a ghostwriter. I've worked with ghostwriters and it's been wonderful experience. It really has. But I just thought, I don't want to hire a ghostwriter. I want it to authentically come to and through me. So I decided to just put aside that belief that I couldn't write it. What if I could? And what if I could do a great job? What would that feel like? So I just, basically what I teach, as you know, Vladdy, I
Yeah.
just got involved in playing with the idea a little bit more until I got to a point where I accepted the idea. And when I accepted the idea, I moved into action. And the first thing I did was I set a date for completion. And the completion was 10 days later. And I decided I would start November 1st. So I opened up my agenda and I just blocked off time, like an hour here, hour there, a couple hours there. And since I was giving myself 10 days, there was a weekend in between. So I thought, well, I could write all weekend. I'm not going anywhere anyways. COVID's here and
Yes.
we're on lockdown. So I just thought, I'm going to do that. And so the inspiration to write it really came from that prompt to create a video. That's where it originally came from. But what a wild ride it was. It was so much fun because when I started writing it, I made a decision that I would write a book like a parable because I love parables and I've read many of them over the years. And what I love about parables is that a parable delivers such a powerful message, but through a story. And I just find that far more entertaining. And I think people remember stories more. I certainly know that from
Yeah.
public speaking as well and from teaching. And I tell my authors all the time, put stories in, put stories, tell stories, because people remember stories. So I decided to base Savvy Wisdom on my life, but let it go wherever it was going to go. Like just open up to the universe and let it go. So when I started writing, like fingers on keyboard on November 1st, I didn't know what Savvy's name was going to be. I didn't know the title of the book. I had an idea of what it would be about and that it would be an inspiring parable, but I just thought, I'm going to let it go where it goes. And it was after the first chapter that I knew Savy's name was going to be Savy. And it just literally popped into my mind. The title of the book, Savy Wisdom, the same thing, popped into my mind as I was writing. But what I also did, Vladdy, was I asked a good friend of mine, Louise, who you know, Louise Tremblay, who has written the book called Seven Roses.
Yeah.
Sorry, I get confused on the title because there was a working title for that book for years called The Circle of Seven. That's what we were going to call the book. But what happened was she found another book was called the same, and she just decided to change it. So it's called Seven Roses. And so I reached out to Louise and I said to Louise, I said, here's what I'm doing. I'm going to be writing this fiction book, and I'd love for you to give me some feedback. So I'm going to write a chapter, send it to you, and then you give me feedback, and then I'll work on the next chapter. And she said, I'm on it. Like, we'll do this together. Like, so anyways, I wrote the first chapter, and I just kept in mind what I teach in my program. And that is, you want to captivate the reader. You want to bring in their attention. You want to hold them. It's not a matter of just having a great opening. It's got to be strong throughout. And when you get to the end of the chapter, you want to make sure they're hanging on to read the next chapter. Yes. And so that's really was my approach. It's simple. It seems like for me, it really seems like common sense, but I don't think common sense is that common. And so when I started the writing process, I wrote a chapter, and I wasn't focused on, I'm going to write a chapter a day, because there are 17 chapters and I finished it in 9 days. It was I just decided to just let it flow. So there were some days that obviously it flowed much better than others. Most of the days it flowed. Is that a word? it came through me easily, but not every day. I mean, there were some nights, like one night, my husband and I went over to friends for dinner, and we're in their little bubble. So that prior to the full lockdown, you could have a little bubble of friends that you saw. And so Jane and Steve are our friends, and they're in our bubble. They're our best friends. So we're at their place for dinner one night. And after, we're socializing, then we decided to go home. It was maybe 9:30, 10. And Jane said, are you going to go to bed when you get home? I said, no, I'm going to get back to writing. And that was completely unlike me, because previously my writing, I would write in the morning because I tend to be a morning person, but I'm fine any time of day. But I was so inspired. It was kind of like I couldn't wait to get back and see where it was going to go. And it was so much fun writing it. And I feel so good about the book, and I feel good about how it turned out. So that's to answer your question.
I love the story, and I love that's what I love about you, that you actually do what you teach, because you have, like, these days we come across teachers, mentors, anyone who are giving, and I'm not, not completely talking about everyone, but some of them who are giving you all these structures and strategies and everything, and it just doesn't get you anywhere, and everybody has a different story. But following because I'm in complete authors program, and I love it, it's, you go step by step. And for me, I was lost before you lighted my journey, but it's very easy to follow. That's what I love on Savy Wisdom, and that's what I really hope, that it will just bless the world, because you put so much love in it. And when you talk about the passion, like when you didn't want to go to bed at nighttime, that just shows you are in love with the goal you set for yourself. That's what you teach as well, being in love, and it just all happens. But it's incredible, and I really love how much it's going to impact the people with the mental health, because not giving any energy to what's happening, it's affecting people. And the story is so inspirational, and I love teenagers should read it. They should literally make it compulsory reading in schools.
Agreed. So many teenagers have been reaching out to me and telling me how the book has made such a difference for them. Not only teenagers, adults too. And it actually surprised me just how the young people are really resonating with the book. And of course, older people are too. Yeah. And I mean, Bob Proctor, who's 87 on his next birthday, is madly in love with the book. Yeah. Unlike anything I've ever seen him get like so excited about. It's been phenomenal.
Which is great, because he does have the high feeling of everything, he's not going overexcited with everything, you know, he loves.
Right. Yeah, he's highly intuitive.
Yeah.
Like he's totally tapped in. And so he's been sending me, like, since Savy Wisdom, since I wrote it. And this is another kind of fun story, because as you know, Savy is really Bob.
Yeah.
It's Bob Proctor. I based that character on him, but not completely on Bob, because there's other people that I studied.
Yeah.
And so when there's parts in the book that Savy is giving Sophie advice, it didn't come from Bob. It actually came from came from Neil Donald Walsh, because I was influenced by his material too. But mostly the advice came from Bob Proctor. And I've not only studied Bob and Neil, I've studied many people, as you know, Dr. Joseph Murphy and many, many others. And so when I had written the book in those 9 days, it was kind of a really surreal experience as well, what happened next, as you know, because on the Monday morning, this was the 10th day. And my mission was to finish on the 10th day. I had scheduled an editor to take over next, and I was timing the launch of the book as well. So I had all these things lined up in my agenda based on the book being done on the 10th of November. So it's the Monday morning, I wake up, I come into my office, and I'm sitting down and I open up the document, because it's the final day to finish off the letter from Savy to Sophie. I had written everything else except that final letter. So I was just sitting here and I'm thinking, I should get Bob to write it. And the idea just popped in my mind. And rather than dismiss it, I just thought, yeah. Now I know Bob's a busy guy. I'm a busy girl, and he's busy too. And he was working on a brand new program, and he and Gina had just checked into a resort so they could just have total focused attention. And they're going to be there for 5 days to complete this program. And I didn't know that at the time. So I emailed him at 10:30 on the Monday morning, just saying, hey, Bob, I spent the last 9 days writing a parable. It's called Savy Wisdom. It's based on my life, your Savy. Really, the character was based around you. Savy stands for a name. And I said, I would love it if you would write the final letter from Savy to Sophie, which is how I'm going to finish the book. Now that meant that he had to definitely read the book and read it thoroughly in order to answer that. So he got the email and he just responded like that, again, based on his intuition, because his intuition said to him, do it. And so he replied right away with a very positive response that said something like, absolutely, I would love to. Thank you for asking. And I was like, whoa. Because I know how busy he is, and I knew. And then he told me, he said, I'm at this resort, we're working on this program, we're here to complete it day and night kind of thing. So the fact that he was so open when he was busy just blew my mind. So he worked all day. It was the Monday the 10th. He worked all day. Gina, his assistant, she printed out the rough draft of Savy Wisdom, gave it to him. And at 9 o'clock that night, after working all day long, he goes to his room and he sits in bed and he starts to read it. And he fell asleep. Now he gets up pretty early, like 4 or 5 in the morning. So understandable, he's asleep early. So he fell asleep, but he said, I woke up at midnight and he said, all I could think about was Savy Wisdom. And he said, I started to read it again and I couldn't stop. And he says, at 2 o'clock, I fell asleep again. He says, I woke up at 6 and I had to finish it. And then he starts texting me, oh my goodness, this is an amazing book. I just love this book. It's going to change lives. And he said, I'll have that letter to you in the next couple of days. And I got the letter the next morning and it was so perfect. It couldn't have been more perfect. And what a great way to wrap up the book. And then audible.com bought the rights to the book. So I said to Bob, I said, how about if I come down there to your studio and we record it, your voice and my voice, because you're Savy giving Sophie advice. And he said, oh, I'd love to. And I said, let's do it on my birthday. And interestingly enough, with COVID in the last year, I've seen Bob twice, on his birthday on July 5th and on my birthday, December 19th. So we've had restrictions. We haven't had complete lockdown this entire time. So when it was his birthday, he's not seeing anyone or traveling anywhere. And I wasn't either. So I said, I'd love to come and see you for your birthday. And I had a gift for him. And he said, great, come on down. So I did. I drove down. Danny and I had a nice visit with him and Linda. And then for my birthday, weren't quite in full lockdown. We could do business. So I said, would you be okay with me coming to your studio? We'll keep 6 feet apart. And he's like, absolutely. Come on down. So after that, though, like for him to record it, he was getting more intimately involved in the materials. So I drove home, like his house and my house, we're about 4-hour difference in driving. And I drove home that day and he was texting me all the way. And I got back home and I'm looking at all his texts and he's just going crazy. And he's saying that, he said that when the movie The Secret first was completed, they sent him a copy, like a pre-release copy, a DVD. And he said it arrived in the mail. And he said he got it in the mail and he held it in his hand and he had this whoosh, like this feeling that came over him. This is going to be really big. And he said, I only had that once in my life. And that was when I held the movie The Secret until now. Because I brought him a copy of Savy Wisdom because I had a printer here locally to print some copies. And he said, I feel it so strongly. This book is going to be huge. And every author wants to hear that, right? It's like, yeah, music to our ears. But then he texts me as well. He says, I do remember another time I had a similar experience. He said, I was working in a bar, and we're going back many, many years ago. This is more than 60 years ago. He said, I was working in a bar and he said, I was sweeping the floor and it was at night. And the Tommy Dorsey show, which was a show my parents used to watch, came on the TV. And he said, they brought on this singer. And he said, he started to sing and he said, I dropped my broom. He said, because again, I had that feeling.
Yeah.
And he said, so there's really only 3 times in my life that I've had that feeling. And he said, it was Elvis Presley that was on the Tommy Dorsey show. And he said, I just knew immediately that guy's going to be wildly successful. And he says, I have the same thing with Savy Wisdom. He said, I absolutely believe it.
And he is very high intuitive. So
yeah.
I would believe it too. And it's funny you mentioned Secret, because for me, that experience, when I've read Secret, which is 9 years ago now, just after I had Joshua, I've read it for so many times and watched the movie so many times, but it brought me awareness. I mean, I'm grateful for it because it brought me to Bob and you, but it never really did in deep understanding and taking action. So it was almost like I was wishing that something is going to happen and waiting for it.
Right.
And it didn't quite explain you have to be taking actions to move forward. Whereas Savy Wisdom, I love it because it not only gives you awareness, it gives you steps. And because you've got the program as well, right? You've got
right, yeah.
program where people can actually get the step-by-step support and find
right.
out more and learn. And that is the most important stuff for even teenagers, you know, like reading a book but then following up on something. It is just incredible. I love the program as well.
Yeah, it's called Savy's Proven Success Principles for anyone that's listening or watching. And Savy, in the whole program, that idea was Bob's too. He sent me a text in January and he said, okay, you should do a program, call it Savy's Proven Success Principles, which I found to be a great name. But I was a little surprised that he suggested that because Savy is him. But he's, you know, he's such a generous man, as you know. I mean, he just give. And he told me to create it. He said, create the program and base it on the book and what the lessons are. And that's exactly what I did. So I got that program done, got it uploaded, and it's available for anyone in the world.
Which it just shows that both of you are so service orientated. You know, you don't just cut the knot like, okay, now deal with it. But it's
right.
like that extra mile you're taking and how much value it adds to the world. And I love the impression of increase you leave with everyone.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's very kind.
Peggy, you know, the audio, when is that available? So people
March 6th.
March 6th. Oh, I can't wait.
That's what I'm told. So I'm assuming it's still ready. We recorded on the 19th of December. Then the editing was done by Bob's team, actually, by Scott, who works with Bob. I was so impressed with him. He lives he's in England right now. Yeah, in the UK. And he did the editing. And I told him, I said, don't you do it? Like, I'll have my team do it. He said, no, I don't mind. And he just loved being close with the material too. I know Scott was positively impacted by Savy Wisdom as well.
I know lots of people who are positively impacted, and I actually know lots of children of people who are impacted, which is amazing.
Oh, that's
I
so good
love
to
children.
hear.
I think it's so important seeing the world, and especially now that the young people, and especially me studying with you guys, it's just made me realize that people really not really taught at schools how to
Yes.
think and how to make
Yes.
decisions, and
Right.
it's such an important thing, you know.
Oh, absolutely true.
So
Absolutely true.
so
I
I
love
would
it.
absolutely encourage all the teenagers, and you know they're quite bored now not being at schools, they should go through the program. It is incredible, and it's the light that every parent wishes for the child to have that desire to be someone or do something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so
Anything
true.
else you would like to add, Peggy?
Yeah, well, I'm it's very rare I'm without words. But what immediately, and I love doing interviews. I've loved doing interviews for so many years because I love sharing these ideas. Like you, I'm so passionate about it, and it's changed my life in every way. And it's kind of like what you said a moment ago, is that Savy Wisdom is, some people are bored right now. What am I going to do with my time? Even if you're not, like, even if you've been investing more time watching television, which I know a lot of people have been doing
Yeah.
since COVID, I see posts online of people saying, oh, I just went through another series on Netflix, and which is great. I'm very grateful for entertainment. I love entertainment. And of course, Savy Wisdom is being made into a movie.
Yeah.
But, for those that are watching this and haven't read it yet, get it today. Like, I really encourage you to get it today, not because it's my book. I would give it away, and I was giving it away for a number of days, and it's not a lot of money to invest, but it, as Bob has said, and we put it right on the cover of the book, it has the power to change your life.
And it
And
does.
it could be a little bit, it could be a drastic change. I mean, my life was changed. I mean, Sophie is me. Sophie was suicidal 40 some odd years ago, and she didn't want to live. And I was there. That was me. My mother was there as well. And it's not a great place to be. It's a horrible place to be. And so many people are struggling nowadays, and it does not have to be that way.
Yes.
So get a copy for yourself, give a copy away to someone you care about, and just watch how it's going to transform lives.
That is actually amazing to give it as a gift, you know. So I encourage everyone. It's better than sending a chocolate.
Right.
It's just giving a gift of giving and loving and encouragement and motivation. I send it to my friend's daughter because she's been having a bad time not seeing her friends, and she's 13.
Right.
But so I'm just waiting. It's just a couple of days ago, so I'm waiting for her to respond. But it is incredible, and I love it. I can resonate with loads, and it encourages and inspires. So thank you so much for coming, Peggy.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.